Alright, we're getting the Firebird all cleaned up, and we're going to get an exhaust system on it, a trans mount on it, and a couple other little things. And stay tuned because we are going to go on a test drive where we really let this thing go and see what this weak sauce material of a stock engine is capable of with a simple exhaust, couple small emissions deletes, being nice and clean. Not that that does anything for it, but the shift kit I put in ends up being quite a bit of fun. So stay tuned and let's see what the finished product is like. Okay, here we are. We're in the car. We're about to head over there, and I got to get some gas too, so let's go ahead and get some gas. Got plenty of oil pressure, that's for sure. Coolant's cold, of course. E. Got some power, so the alternator's actually working, which is kind of a surprise. Decent idle, considering, and obviously no speed. There's the miles, so 59,000. Pretty low mile car. Let's get rolling here. Let's leave the garage. I got 30 bucks of gas in the car, and we are about to wash this thing up. I gotta degrease the engine bay first. A little beforehand, you can see the engine bay here. Now I want to put a couple notes on here. If you're ever cleaning up something like this, you want to avoid spraying the distributor much, if at all. You can hit it real lightly, but that's about it. You want to do it with the car running, and then you also want to make sure you don't spray any of these connectors hard. Pressure washers can destroy things like these connectors and cause issues. So I will go ahead and get started on this. So here's the after. Much cleaner. I still got some things to detail before I get it back to the customer, and I still got some things to do before I get it back. But it looks a lot better now. And I did notice there is an exhaust leak over on this side that wasn't there before. It's probably from when I did the starter. I just didn't get the bolts tight enough or something. But I'm gonna go take it down the road and get all the water off the outside of the car. But the car does look a lot better. I officially think this thing has a bad transmission mount. Every time it shifts reasonably hard, holy crap, it feels like something hits the underneath my hand, hits the tunnel. You hear that? That's crazy. So you can see what I'm doing here. I'm wiping it down with WD-40 of all things. This is a very good engine detailing trick that I've learned because it doesn't leave the oil behind. So as weird as it is, being it is an oil basically, the WD-40 does not leave the stickiness factor of oil behind, in that it will not sit there and adhere a bunch of dust over time. It's like after you put it on and the engine warms up, it dries out. It still leaves a little bit of a shine and a very clean look, but it dries out, which is extremely nice. Therefore, you're able to do a decent job of cleaning the engine bay off without costing you a bunch of more time later trying to clean it off again. And at the same time, it soaks into the material a little bit, just enough that it keeps it cleaner for longer. It works extremely well on rubber hoses. Okay, so I loosened up the distributor cap, or not cap, but distributor itself, so that I can play with the timing here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take the timing light, I'm going to find out where the timing is at the first start, where it's been sitting for all this time, because it runs like dog crap. Seems like it needs to be advanced quite a bit. So I'm going to find out where it's at currently, and then I'm going to just go off of sound first, and then after I go off of sound, I am going to see where it's at, and then go to stock and see what it sounds like at the stock timing setting. Well, I have not actually gone down the road yet. I adjusted it. It started out at about 7 degrees. The factory setting is 6. I did not look for any kind of spout, which would be like a thing to disable any kind of vacuum advance or things like that, electronically version of it. A lot of those cars have that of that era. So it was set to, which basically is factory setting, according to the spec. However, I have a strange suspicion that's wrong. There's probably something that needs to be unplugged in order to turn it into setting the timing mode. I think somebody adjusted it without doing that, and that's why it was running so poorly. I adjusted it until it sounded good, and then I adjusted it more, and it sounded a little bit better, but you don't want to go too much, so I backed it off a little bit, and it was happy at around 25 degrees with, at idle without any kind of thing disconnected to make sure it's at base timing. So that's where I put it. I set it there for now. Later on, I'll actually make sure I get the correct timing in there to see yay, nay, whatever, and most likely I'll advance it a little more than factory because factory was set for some pretty poor quality fuel back in those days. Now the fuel has a little bit better octane rating and has less detonation chance, so you can advance the timing, get a little more power out of it, and make a better running car. So when I pulled it out, it had a lot more get up and go. I mean, it just crispy compared to before. Now I have a feeling it's going to be much nicer to drive. I know it will be a lot nicer to drive. So now you can see I'm pulling the air pump and whatnot out of here. This system is old enough that the only thing it uses for detecting whether this air pump system is active or not are the resistance, or is the resistance in here, if anything. It does not have an O2 sensor behind the catalytic converter, so it doesn't use that to judge whether the air pump's properly working. It might use the front O2, I'm not positive, but I'm going to give it a shot, pull it out, see what happens, keep all the parts just in case. And if I don't get any air pump codes, that's good, because then I don't have to worry about it, and there's less crap in the engine bay. So that's how we're going to go about this right now and see what happens. Alright, totally forgot to take the video clip of me putting all the stuff together, but you got the gist of it. I removed the air pump and I'm moving on to the next thing. Last time I took it for a drive, I was just about to take this thing for another drive after doing that and getting the timing changed. I remember when it shifted that I felt a nasty thunk, like it was smashing up against the tunnel. And I remembered I wanted to check this guy right here. So this here part is the transmission mount. Oops, pry bar slipped, sorry. See how it's completely separated. So that is why it felt like it was hitting the tunnel, because it actually was. So I have to order a new mount. I'm going to get that coming right away, and that'll take care of that issue. I might as well order a rear output seal too, because that's leaking pretty good apparently. Right here is the output shaft seal. I just got done replacing the seal. This seal right here was leaking pretty bad. I totally forgot to do any kind of filming of it, so I'll go over it real quick. All I had to do, 4 bolts for the yoke at the back here by the pinion of the rear differential. Take those out. These little brackets come off with it, and then you can use a pry bar to pop the drive shaft forward off the pinion, and then you can pull the shaft out of the transmission. Then you can replace the seal itself. Once the seal is replaced, put it back together the same way you took it apart. Easy peasy. Now I have to replace this mount, so we're going to go ahead and show you how I go about replacing this mount. It's actually really easy, and I have a upgraded mount for it. So hopefully this mount works. It is a urethane mount. I just kind of looked up a GM universal mount, and I'm hoping that the bolt pattern is doable on here. Usually they work fine. This transmission looks a little narrow compared to most, but if anything else, I could figure out a way to adapt it. But this is a energy suspension mount. If I don't use it here, I'll use it on something else, so I'm not too worried about it. You know, ordering it and wasting the money. So here it is. You can see it's a big block of urethane. It's got a support plate that goes back here that this squishes these 2 ribs of the urethane against, and then it's got 3 bolt holes, and that's really nice if you're doing any kind of swapping, engine swap, tranny swap, where you're putting something that doesn't belong in the car. We're going to go ahead and try and shove that in there. Hopefully it's got enough width that it'll work. It should. I haven't had any that didn't fit yet. I'm going to go ahead and give this a pull. Yep, there it is. There's the separated mount. So obviously that's no good. The rest of the mount is still up there. Oh, there's, wow, dirt coming out of there. Ooh, that was a big chunk. What the heck? Now when you upgrade to one of these mounts, you don't want to tighten this down all the way. You want to tighten it till you can still move it back and forth just a little bit. That way you can make sure you get this bolt, well, that way you can make sure you get the center bolt lined up with the plate that goes underneath. Okay, so this hole is not big enough for the bolt that fits the bottom of this mount because it has a larger bolt diameter. So I need to hog this out and make it larger. Okay, you can see I got my gauge set up here. I am doing the AC on this car. I was going to check its functionality, see if it's going to work or not. I can't truly test it because it's cold outside, but I can make sure it's charged, try running it in the shop as much as possible. I went ahead, and the first thing I did before I did anything was checked pressures, and I didn't even check it with the gauge, honestly, because I doubted things. All I did was I took my rivet, and I just pushed on the valve just a little bit to see if there's any pressure in there at all. There was nothing. So I know it's completely dry. There's nothing in there whatsoever. So I went ahead and I did a retrofit kit. This was an R12 car. I went ahead and threw the retrofit conversion kit on there. It comes with 4 fittings in total. So now what I need to do is I need to pull a full vacuum on this system, see if it'll hold a charge. Before I do that, I'm actually going to go ahead and throw just a little compressed air in here and see if I hear any crazy leaks. So I have it at 77 psi about, and I hear absolutely no leaks. So I'm going to go ahead, pull a vacuum on it. Okay, I have the vacuum pump running. As soon as I go to charge it, you'll be right back. Alright, we're ready to charge this thing. I had it sitting under a vacuum the entire time I installed an exhaust system on this. I did not have the pump running for the whole time, only for a small portion. And I shut the pump off and just let it sit. And it's been sitting for well over a half hour now, and it still has full vacuum in it. So I'm really confident the system does not leak. So I need to charge this thing up. I don't think it would be necessary to put oil in here because the system had oil in to begin with. I never changed anything. But I think I am going to go ahead and put just a little bit in. Better safe than sorry. So I'm going to take the line that hooks up to the charging keg, and I'm just going to fill the line with a little bit of oil. Just enough to get some oil flowing into it. I just don't want nothing, you know what I mean? This is a super jank way of doing this, but I haven't invested in I haven't invested in much at all for AC system stuff. So I'm just trying to make it work. New to the business, I can't go in the hole buying equipment. I have to ease into it a little bit. That was maybe a half an ounce, maybe, not even. But I just want a little bit, that's all I want. So, get the keg upside down, and we are just going to, we are not going to fully fill the system necessarily. I mean, it might fill it all the way, but I'm not positive. I don't want to go off of the spec on the vehicle. I'm not sure how accurate that will be, being R12 to 130. So all I'm going to do for filling this is I'm going to flip the keg, and I'm going to let it rush in under the vacuum, fill up under vacuum, and that's it. I'm not going to sit there and suck it in with the pump or use anything to push it in. I'm just going to let it equalize, and I'm going to call it good at that until spring, and then I'll have the customer return to make sure everything held, and I'll sit there and equalize the pressures, but I don't want to do it in winter here. Well, that didn't work very well. Alright, so my thoughts on this system. It looks really good. It looks really clean. It installs okay. It wasn't too bad. I'm not going to have any problems leaking. The sticker was BA. I like that MF dude. So that pretty much wraps that part of it up. And we'll end this on a little exhaust note. Thanks for watching. I'm going to go ahead and give it a rip here, see how good that second gear feels now that I got the new transmission mount and everything in it. Oh, it didn't even shift down. I'm going to pull over. There's people behind me, so I don't want to just take off. Okay, we're going to give it a shot here. Get out on the street. Hit it. Woo! Little second gear rubber there. Nice. Hey, this thing's kind of fun. For being such a slowpoke compared to what I'm used to, this thing's a lot of fun. Cool.